Hey guys, welcome to CarAudioFabrication. If you've been watching this channel, you know that for a while now, I've been working on doing a full build into a Jeep Wrangler. The next step on the agenda for this build is building a custom subwoofer box, and what I want to do is actually make it a layered style design. Now, what does layered mean? With a layered style box, what we will do is take a complex shape and we'll actually stack those layers on top of each other to create what is overall a complex shape, but it still has an internal volume that we can turn into a subwoofer box. Now, one of the first things that you need to do to actually create one of these layered stack style subwoofer boxes is come up with that shape. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you my process for actually capturing a complex shape out of a vehicle, making sure that that shape fits within the vehicle, because I actually had a few issues and I want to make sure you guys don't make the same mistakes. And finally, how to take that overall shape and turn it into a profile that allows us to then have the outside and inside of the subwoofer box. Let's jump in and get started. To get started here, I first want to remove the amplifier rack beauty panel. And in case you guys are new here, I have the whole build for how I made this in the back of the vehicle here on my YouTube channel. You can check it out, link on screen. I made this so that it's pretty simple to remove, just like so. I just want to get it out of the way so that I don't mess it up while I'm working inside the interior. Put the stock one back in place for now and lock it into place. Whammy! So as you guys may know in one of the previous videos, I actually tested a couple of different locations here within the vehicle to actually see which direction firing the subwoofer would work best. And I actually found that I got a little bit more output with the subwoofer in this location here on the side of the vehicle firing this direction. So in order to have the subwoofer over here, what I need to do is capture this shape here of the wheel well. It's a little bit hard to see, but I'll give you guys a better look. But the goal is to build a stack or layer fabricated enclosure that is made of multiple different layers of wood so that I can capture this shape. But the first thing I want to do is I want to find a good mounting point so that I know I can hold this subwoofer box in position. So to do so, I need to actually remove this carpet. Now I'm only removing the carpet just so I can actually determine a location. Then I'll put the carpet back in because ultimately I want this box to sit on top of the carpet, so I want to capture the carpet's shape. Obviously I've got the carpet back in here, but I had a little bit of an epiphany, I think. There's plenty of sheet metal underneath this carpet here that I could use to bolt the enclosure down. But if you're familiar with Jeeps, you know that of course the top of the vehicle comes off. So I think what I'm actually going to use, these are really good, strong, robust mounting points. I think for my case, I'm going to actually use these as the mounting positions for the subwoofer box. What I'll do is I'll just have sort of a metal bracket. I'll have it rest underneath the bolt. Obviously, you'll remove the bolt, but I should be able to access it between this little space here from the back of the box and between the window. Here's the subwoofer that I'm going to be installing. It's a Rockford Fosgate T1 Slim. As you can see, it has a really shallow mounting depth for being a 10-inch subwoofer. But if you see me holding up this Mobile Solutions circle template, the reason I'm doing that is because it's approximately the same size as the subwoofer. So I'm getting an idea for where I can fit this. But I should have more than plenty enough room, as you can see, for the 10-inch sub. But the idea is the subwoofer will go right here, and we'll have the port geometry snaking back and forth over in this general area, and then firing either up or to the rear. We'll figure that out later. Let's start with capturing the bottom part of the shape, the most complicated part of the shape. For this, I'm going to have MDF, and then I have the Mobile Solutions Smart Circle system. This is just a series of circles, and I can actually use this as a guide to capture the curve. So I'm going to start with putting the MDF here. It does actually change a little bit from the left side of the vehicle to the right side. So I'm going to kind of just capture the profile that's in the middle, and I have it here basically in the center of that profile and then kind of angled down. And what I can do is I'll put one of the circles here, and you can make these out of a piece of wood if you so choose. It has a small hole in the center for my pencil lead. And we'll just roll this along and capture that shape. So that's looking pretty bodacious. We might not necessarily capture the shape on the first run here, but I'm gonna take this over and cut it real quick with the jigsaw. Test fit number 1. Not horrible. You can see that we have a little bit of a gap down here. So what I can do is I'll pick up a smaller circle, and as you reduce your circle size, you're gonna get more and more resolution out of this. Now, I'm not going to go super small yet, even though I probably could, but I want this to transfer just a little bit further. So I'm going to use a little bit bigger circle, smaller obviously than the first one. Like so. There we go. That's looking pretty good. I want to make sure that I put this thing in basically the same spot each time I take it in and out of the vehicle, because I'm going to have to be moving this thing quite often. So what I'm going to do is just take a strip of tape and run it down the length. Now what I want to do is actually capture this part here of the shape. Cut that shape out. You can see it matches that fairly closely. So I'll put this back in position here, kind of line it up, sketch it on the back here. Now, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you will have seen in one of my recent mini tutorials that I like to do over there that I talk to you guys about cutting up some of your old scrap wood into straight pieces like this that you can use on future projects. These really come in handy. I'm going to show you guys what I like using them for right now. So what we can do with these straight strips is we get a little piece of template tape on them like this. And the template tape is double-sided, so I peel away the backing paper, and now I can take this piece and carefully line it up and stick it temporarily into position. Now the goal with these straight pieces is I'm going to make myself a complete outline. On the front here, I really only need the straight shape. I'm also going to add this straight piece to the top. And I might have to do some slight modifications to some pieces to make them a little bit shorter, but let's get this all pieced together. Here's what we've got here for the skeleton. I had to take it out of the vehicle because I added a little bit of CA glue, and it was a little bit difficult to get out of the vehicle without it coming apart since it was just held together with template tape. But you can see this is a quick, easy way to capture the overall profile, and now I can transfer this to a solid piece of wood. But we'll get this in position here, and I'm just going to sketch out the rough outline so that I can cut it on the jigsaw. Now what I could do next, I have the rough cut shape out here. What I could do is I could actually stick this material to the rough cut shape and then copy it using a flush trim bit, but I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So far, I haven't touched the router, and I actually cut this out with a jigsaw, and you could do the same. You could cut out with a jigsaw and be a little bit more careful, but what I want to do instead, I want to use this adjustable curve, and as always guys, all the different tools that I use in these videos is down in the video description. The reason I want to use this guy instead is whenever I use this in conjunction with the router, I get a lot more fluid or nice of a curve. It just looks a lot better, and it makes it not as obvious that this was cut using normal woodworking tools. It almost looks like it was more of a CNC style cut. Now I'll stick this in position, and I'm going to work the curve as we go. Now to really lock this in place so it doesn't shift on us during the routing process, I'll lay down another layer of tape on top. That's nice and stout. Here at the router, I'm going to be using this special bit. It's a normal flush trim bit, but you can see on the top here it has this square bearing. And the square bearing, my friends, that is what is key for this, because this square bearing will ride against that adjustable template without eating into it. Don't try using a normal circular bearing. You're gonna have a bad time. So there you have it. You can see it made a real nice flowing cut. You would be really hard pressed to tell that that wasn't created using some sort of CNC machine. Now these other cuts here are just straight, so I can use a straight template to make them. Take a gander and see how well this fits. My friends, I would say that looks pretty dang good. Follows the contour of the floor real nice and parallel with the actual window line. Comes back to this point like we want. It also matches that little bit of an angled cut there. Now that I have this board in here and I've moved the seat back into a reclined position, I'm starting to see an issue. It's moments like these that you're not necessarily going to see when you're looking through a finished build log of a really, really good installer. Trust me, everyone runs into these kind of issues and roadblocks during a build, kind of wondering, what should I do next? I didn't really see this happening. But the problem I'm having here is I actually found that I know that I want the surface of the box to come out more this direction, but if it does, the back of the seat here is actually going to hit it. So I'm gonna have to just kind of compensate for that, and what I think I'm actually gonna do is draw a line that matches the back of the seat, and then rather than having this corner of the box like I originally intended, I'll just have that sloped line, so the seat will actually kind of recline back to the box, and the box will actually have a little bit of an angle over in this side. And what that will do is allow me to bring this face out a little bit more so that the subwoofer can be more in this general plane and I can have more volume on the inside of the enclosure. So these things happen. I think it's important to show you guys so that you don't think that everything always just goes perfectly smoothly. And I actually posted a little bit of a rant on Facebook today, and I said one of the things that I hate most is when people get discouraged when they're doing a car audio build. I think it's really important to remember that all of the pros and guys that are really, really good at this at one time had the same exact skill level as you do now. So never stop, just keep moving forward and just keep pushing to the next step. Let's do the next step. Now that this is cut, you can see what I did is I actually ended up having two angles. One is kind of the angle here at the top here that matches the reclined position of the seat, and then at the bottom, this is more of like a driving angle. So it kind of matches the normal angle of the back seat there. But what I want to do now is soften up some of these corners. I don't want them to be hard like that for the finished actual shape. So we'll use some circles to do that, and I'm actually going to kind of remove this little point here because it just won't work out well for the overall box shape. Here we have it, our shape with the rounded corners, and in a second here we're going to do the coolest trick ever to really capture the overall profile of this so that we can start stacking and making an actual enclosure. But you can see everything's nice and rounded over. Again, it still fits the carpet great. It is a little bit above the window line, and I did that intentionally just because I want to leave enough volume to make sure that I have enough room for a port, but I'm kind of low right now. But if you come outside the vehicle and you stand at normal height, you can see that you can still see out the window. And actually I tested it from the driver position as well. If you look back, you can still see the full window even with this in its rearmost position. Also, something else just to note that I haven't really been pointing out as we go, but I always keep checking, knowing that this is about the approximate size of the subwoofer. I keep checking and making sure that I have more than enough real estate to actually locate that on this board. Up to this point, I've been using a piece of 1/8 inch MDF to make this shape just because it routers really easily, nice and clean, but I'm going to transfer it to a piece of 1/2 inch. I I've got this shape copied. Now what I need to do is I actually want to make this shape into an outside ring so that the inside cavity is hollow, thus making it a box. So how we're going to do that is I've loaded up the 1 1/8 inch rabbiting bit. This is part of the smart pattern system. I've raised up about 1/8 of an inch. This 1/8 of an inch will give me a surface to ride on with a separate flush trim bit in a second. Let's do this first step here and create a step. With that cut complete, if I flip it over here, you can see what it's done is it's created a step, and I've already drilled a hole here. And the reason for that hole is we can slide that over this spiral flush trim bit, like so, and now the spiral trim bit will ride against this inside shape. So now that we've trimmed out the inside, here we have our finished shape. If you line it up like so, you can see it's going to fit in the vehicle, look really good, matches the floor perfectly. So in the next video, I'm going to need to come up with a way to actually determine the inside internal volume of this box. I'm going to need to determine the design of the port, and I'll basically have to figure out how this shape is actually going to start layering and turn into a full enclosure. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to make sure that you see the rest of this project, I would love to have you as a subscriber. You can also see the rest of the full build here on screen. As always, a special thanks goes out to the Patreon support team, along with J-Mac, Brian, Ali, Jerry, EJ, Emmanuel, Rory, and Truman. A big thanks to these guys for helping support the making of these videos. As always, my friends, don't forget to design, build, and install.